Mabuhay. Good day, I am Polison and we are the Group 3 about the ethics and supply chain iteration. At the end of this report, we can learn about the following objectives. Number 1, determine the relationship of ethics in the supply chain. Number 2, identify the major ethical issues in purchasing and supply management and offer some guidance. Number 3, appreciate and apply the values that are specific in employing an organization and its stakeholders to incorporate this into policy on ethical purchasing and supply chain management. Introduction. Ethics is a systematic philosophy that directs people and their work and how they behave themselves. Respect, confidence, justice, probity, dignity, and honesty are all principles that ethical conduct encompasses. The corporate sector relied on ethical principles to clearly differentiate between poor and good business practices.
Ethics and supply chain. Legal issues are highly vulnerable in the field of procurement and supply management. It is the person in charge of procurement is responsible for paying a large amount of money through civil organizations. Procurement professionals such as advertising or marketing personnel perform an important part in the organization, external environment. As a consequences, where a company growth is achieved in an ethical term, the company reputation is jeopardized. Furthermore, according to legal and ethical guidelines, supply chain professionals cannot abdicate their responsibility to monitor, control, and choose supplier. Legal issues are significant concern in the field of procurement and supply chain management. The person is responsible for procurement plays a crucial role in paying a substantial amount of money to multiple organizations. Procurement professionals such as advertising or marketing personnel have a vital role in external environment of the organizations. When a company growth achieved through unethical means, it puts the company reputation at risk. Additionally, according to legal and ethical guidelines, such chain professionals cannot invade their responsibility to monitor, control, and select the suppliers. Like in other words, legal issue in the procurement, supply management arise due to the potential vulnerability in the process. The person overseeing a procurement is accountable for the managing financial transaction with various organizations. Like ang example ani is kanang og kinsa to na naay kanang katungod nga kanang murag gitagaan siya o kanang rule sa kanang company or the business ana nga supply. If naa og nay mahitabo ana nga supply, bayaran jud na sa katong tawo nga responsible nga gitagaan ana nga task kay kun di maadto na siya sa kuan na ay posibilidad nga ang ilang business is kanang like mahidong siya o kanang sa pang gitawag siya risk bitaw like nga reputation risk sa company nila. And then this is the four bullet not problem of not solves. The first one is the being ethical company is not enough anymore. Like being ethical company is like no longer sufficient in today's businesses landscape. While ethical practices are essential and form the foundation of the company operation, and those examples of the ethical company is mga sustainability. Like this is involved not only minimizing negative environmental impact but also actively contributing to the environmental conservation and social responsibility. And the second one of those examples is corporate social responsibility. Like ethical behavior is now intertwined with corporate social responsibilities. A company are expected to go beyond more compliance with regulations and actively engage an initiative that benefits society. And the second problem of not solved is your brand will be judged by the company it keeps. the brand will be judged by the company. It is like emphasize yung mga importance of the associations and the relationship of that on that company, like naka-maintain iyang shipping in reputation and perception in the eyes of stakeholders, including ang mga customers, investors, employees, and the general public. And this is those example partnerships and collaborations. Like mga ubang company is nag-choose sila og kanang brand sa into other company into other partner nga ila collaborate with can significantly impact in image and credibility. And example is supply chain and vendor relationship. Like the suppliers and vendors a company choose to work will play crucial role in determining in a brand perceptions. Consumers today are increasingly concerned about ethical sourcing, fair labor practices, and environmental sustainability. And the third problem not solved is your whole supply chain must be ethical. Like naka-ensure siya that the entire of the supply chain of the company is naka-ethical into a crucial into today's businesses environment where the consumers, investors, and regulatory bodies are increasingly focused on sustainability and social responsibility and ethical practices. And those are example of your whole supply chain is transparency, accountability. An ethical supply chain requires transparency at every stages of the production process. This means that companies must be able to trace the origin of their raw materials and monitor the working condition of laborers and ensure that the environmental standards are met through the supply chains. And the second example is the risk mitigations, consumer expectations. And then the fourth problem of that is the biggest brand in the chain will be most of the blame. Like when it comes to ethical lapses or controversies with the supply chain, the biggest brand in the chain often bears the brunt of the blame and public Christianity. And this is those examples in a brand chain is more like visibility and accountability. The largest brand in supply chain is typically has the highest visibility in a brand recognitions among consumers. Like as a result, when ethical issues or scandals arise within the supply chain, the spotlight is often on the biggest brand. And the second example is the brand reputation. The reputation of the largest brand is often closely tied to the entire supply. In any negative publicity or unethical practices that uncover within the supply chain can tarnish the reputation of the main brand, even if the issue is originated further down the chain. And the third examples is supply chain complicity. The supply chains are becoming increasingly complex with the multiple tiers of suppliers, substructures involved in the production process. And the fourth is the legal regulatory expenses. And in a summary, is the largest brand in the supply chain is more likely to receive the majority of the blame in the event of the ethical lapses or controversies due to its visibility, brand reputation, supply chain complicity, legal Christianity, financial impact, and the leadership's responsibility. And this is those examples of the ethics problem not solved. And the other examples is will be continue to 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿.
Hi everyone, I am 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿. The fifth bullet. Solution can and should be implemented immediately in supply chain ethics. One immediate solution to address supply chain ethics issues is to implement robust transparency measures throughout the supply chain. This involves requiring suppliers to disclose information about their labor practices, environmental impacts, sourcing of materials, and compliance with ethical standards. By mandating transparency, companies can identify and address potential ethical violations more effectively. So furthermore, companies should establish clear codes of conduct, ethical guidelines for all parties involved in the supply chain. So including suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and subcontractors. So these guidelines should outline expectations regarding fair labor, environmental sustainability, human rights, and other ethical considerations. So additionally, companies can leverage technologies such as blockchain and supply chain management software to enhance transparency and traceability in the supply chain. So overall, by prioritizing transparency, establishing clear ethical guidelines, leveraging technology, and collaborating with stakeholders, companies can implement immediate solutions to improve supply chain ethics and uphold their commitment to social responsibility. So the 6 bullets, penalties for inaction can be great damage brand reputation. So the penalties for inaction of supply chain ethics can indeed be significant, particularly in terms of damage brand reputation. When companies fail to address ethical issues within their supply chains, they risk tarnishing their brand image and losing the trust and loyalty of customers, investors, and other stakeholders. So consumers today are increasingly conscious of ethical and sustainability issues, and they expect companies to uphold high standards of social and environmental responsibilities. When ethical lapses occur with a company's social supply chain, whether it involves exploitation of workers, environmental pollution, or human rights violation, it can result in public outrage and backlash. So, furthermore, damaged brand reputation can have long-term financial implications, impacting sales, profitability, and market share. So, rebuilding trust and restoring reputation can be a costly and time-consuming process, requiring significant investments in marketing, public relations, and supply chain improvements. So, the potential penalties of inaction on supply chains ethics, particularly in terms of damage, brand reputation, underscore the importance for companies to proactively address ethical issues within their supply chains and demonstrate a commitment to responsible business practices. Next is the 7 bullets. The cost of implementation can be affordable in supply chain ethics. So it included efficiency gains, risk mitigation, innovation, and differentiation, long-term sustainability, and consumer loyalty and brand value. So, its initial costs involved in implementing ethical practices in supply chains. So, the long-term benefits, including efficiency gains, risk mitigation, innovation, sustainability, and enhanced brand value, can make the cost of implementation affordable and worthwhile in the grand scheme of business operations. So let's proceed to the difference between ethics and supply chain ethics. So ethics in the general sense refers to the moral principles and values that guide individual and collective behavior in all aspects of life. It encompasses principles such as honesty, integrity, fairness, respect, and responsibility. So on the other hand, supply chain ethics also specifically focuses on the ethical considerations within the context of supply chain management and operations. It involves apply ethical principles and standards to the various activities and relationship involved in sourcing, production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. So this includes ensuring fair treatment of workers, minimizing environmental impact, promoting human rights, and fostering transparency and accountability throughout the supply chain. So in essence, while ethics provides a broad framework for moral conduct in all aspects of life, supply chain ethics narrows the focus to ethical considerations specifically within the realm of supply chain management and operation.
Next is the forms of ethical conduct. It has 4 forms of ethical conduct, and these are the high standards of professionalism, transparency and accountability, personal integrity, and compliance and constant improvement. So first is the high standards of professionalism. Many of the terms and requirements that have been defined must be followed by all. Maintaining high standards of professionalism is crucial for building trust, credibility, and success in any field. It involves adhering to ethical practices, demonstrating competence, communicating effectively, and treating others with respect and courtesy. Ethical conduct and professionalism.
The number 3 of supply chain ethics is a personal integrity. So the personal integrity of every person should be a leading force in ensuring that the whole supply chain adheres to the appropriate policy. So receiving benefits behind the backs of the peoples to gain an unfair advantage of unethical and should be a discourage for all Filipinos. So personal integrity in the supply chain is crucial for maintaining trust, ethical standard, and sustainability. So one good example of have personal integrity in a supply chain can be illustrated through the action of the supply chain manager who demonstrate his or her honesty, accountability, and ethical decision making in their role or job. So suppliers who are transparent about their sourcing practices, labor condition, and environmental impact, or in general, he is or her have an honesty in her work. The number 4 of the supply chain ethics is a compliance and constant improvement. So progressive transformation should be used as a model for the right supply chain process. Although purchasing a code of ethics for use in a business is unrealistic, staying current on industry dynamics should be expected. So doing all above mentioned ethical issues in the workplace would get you higher marks from the government as well as the outside investors. So a good example of showcasing both compliance and constant improvement in the supply chain can be seen in the practices of a food manufacturing company that is committed to that they ensure that their product is safety, have quality, and sustainability throughout the supply chain. So imagine a food manufacturer that produce products from the various supplier worldwide to comply with a strict organic certification standard and regulations. So the company conducts regular audits of its suppliers to verify the organic farming practices and ensure the absence of synthetic pesticide or GMOs and maintain the integrity of organic.
Good morning everyone, I am Jericho Arboleras and I am going to report the supplier ethic management. Supplier ethic management is a practice of controlling suppliers and supply relationship by procedures, processes, and metrics that better align supplier business conduct with purchaser requirements, with the goal of reducing the purchases total livelihood of supply chain corporate credibility failure. And here are the 3 major areas of corporate integrity. First is compliance, second is ethics, third is corporate responsibility. In compliance, mauni siya ang mga rules and regulations bitaw, like kanang compliance, mukuha kag supplier, dapat ang supplier nimo is na siya kanang business permit, BIR permit, or something like kanang makuan nimo siya ba, matuuhan nimo siya nga kanang good in kuan siya kanang supplier. In ethics, mao ni siya ang integrity values, like ang values bitaw sa imong supplier nga maka-provide ana nga supply para sa imong business, kanang sakto jud or wala labis walang kulang. And the corporate responsibility is external values like kanang sila willing sila nga supply nimo walay delay if mo kontak ka na jud ayon.
Buhay, I am Sharna Cemine. So the following are the components used in supplier code of ethics, which are the labor practice and standards, environmental policy and ethics. First, let us define what is labor practice and standards. So the labor practice and standards includes safeguards against child labor, non-discrimination, health and safety, working hours, compensation, right to association, working conditions, and freely chosen employment. So the labor practice and standard talks about how they protect workers and create a safe and fair working environment, and also they want to ensure equality of opportunity and fair treatment for their workers and protect them against all sorts of discriminatory actions. So let's proceed to the second component, which is the environmental policy. Environmental policy comprises of product and materials use and technology of transport system. So the environmental policy primarily concerned with how to govern the relationship between humans and the natural environment in a mutually beneficial manner. Traditionally, it has been defined in terms of the problems it addressed, such as controlling pollution and waste flows and limiting habitat loss. One example of an environmental policy is the Clean Air Act of 1963, which sought to decrease air pollution. Another environmental policy example is the Wilderness Act of 1964, which gave federal protections to over 9 million acres of federal land. And the third component used in supplier code of ethics is ethics, means putting anti-corruption laws in effect and adhering to equal market practices as it comes to recruiting potential companies, employees, and retaining partner relationship. So ethics is very important to consider since it helps to address human rights and environmental challenges, and it can also deliver bottom line benefits in the long run. So how important are ethics in the supplier-customer relationships? Businesses with ethical supply chains can enhance their reputation, boost customer loyalty, and avoid human rights violations, and also it can achieve better financial performance.
Mabuhay everyone, I am Kurth Consar. The emergence of supply chain and ethical issues with several individuals are involved in the supply chain process. It is difficult to determine who is being truthful and who is not. So, in the emergence of supply chain ethical issues, the number one is procedures. In supply chain phase, a procedure can encounter a variety of ethical issues, working standards, labor costs, and child labor. Environmentally unfriendly and activities including the manufacturers of products and the waste of disposal in the use of natural resources are only a few examples of how companies stray from these ethical business practices. So the example of producers is ensuring fair labor practices in safe working conditions for their workers, and also maintaining environmental sustainability by reducing waste and pollution, and to avoid the use of child labor or exploitation of workers, and also providing accurate information about their products to consumers. So the second is we have here is suppliers. It is essential part of a company supply network. Suppliers are ethical in securing high quality raw materials as well as maintaining high inventory requirements and a dependable distribution of network. So this raw materials is provided a lower cost to retailers for product to have a greater profit margin. Resources are used not only by business who purchase directly from producers but also retailers, the works as go between the source and the producers. So the suppliers is upholding fair business practices and transparency in their dealings, and also avoiding bribery, corruption, or other unethical behaviors. Of course, we are talking unethical issues and the emergence of supply chain. And also ensuring the quality and safety of the materials or components they provide, and also adhering the ethical sourcing practices such as avoiding conflict minerals or supporting fair trade. So it is essential or crucial for both producers and suppliers to prioritize ethical considerations in their supply chain operations to build trust with consumers, protect their reputation, and also to contribute a more sustainable and socially responsible business environment. So of course it is very very important in terms of business, the consumers, producers, and suppliers, so that we can have a smooth operations. As what I said earlier, that supply chain operations is to build trust with consumers and protect their reputation, and also contribute to a more sustainable and socially responsible business environment. Thank you.
So hi, mabuhay. I am Reca. So this is the chapter summary of our topic, ethics in supply chain operations. So supply chain issues can be broadened to include all elements of the supply chain in addition to commodity specifications, means and goals of the business. So ethics is the agreed upon law of behavior of any transactions between two or more individuals to have a smoother operations of the business. So, supply chain ethics mean a trustworthy and responsible customer service experience to exceed guest and clients' satisfaction. So, ethics in supply chain operations involve ensuring fair treatment of workers, environmental sustainability, transparency, and adherence to legal regulations to follow the rules and regulations that the community or the government has given to any business throughout the entire supply chain process, from sourcing raw materials to delivering finished products. So, the key principles include fair labor practices, principal sourcing, environmental stewardship, and social responsibility. So, companies strive to uphold these ethics to build a trustworthy with customers, and as well as their partners in business, to minimize risk and contribute positively to society. Let's move on to our case analysis. The Chipotle Retailing Food with Integrity by Lisa Lupo, 2015. So we have a question asked that we need to be answered. So first we have,
identify the different supply chain ethical values and best practices of Chipotle that is being implemented within the organization, and explain each. So, Chipotle is known for its commitment to ethical values in its supply chain, primarily focused on sustainable sourcing and responsible practices. So, one of these are the food with integrity. So, Chipotle is primarily value in sourcing high quality ingredients to its raw materials and its reliable sources because it is raised responsibly from animals, organic products, and local suppliers whenever possible. So this encompasses humane treatment of animals, sustainable farming practices, and supporting local communities. So next is sustainable sourcing. So Chipotle prioritizes ingredients that are produced in an environmentally sustainable way, such as using organic and non-GMO ingredients because they are responsibly raised animals from local communities. Then another is fair wages and labor practices. So Chipotle emphasizes fair labor practices and ensures that workers along its supply chain are treated fairly and paid adequately. So this Chipotle company is known for its fair wages to its workers, and they treated them equally. So another is transparency. So what is transparency? It is how and where you get your sources. So Chipotle is transparent about its sourcing practices from its reliable sources, providing information to consumers about where its ingredients came from, and how they are produced, so that the customers are being well informed about the raw ingredients. So this helps build trust with customers and as well as their partners of their business. Another is community engagement. So Chipotle engages with local communities to help them and supports initiatives to promote sustainability, education, and food access of the local communities within their area. So Chipotle demonstrates its commitment to responsible sourcing and sustainability throughout its supply chain while fostering trust with customers who value transparency and ethical business practices, as well as their business partners, that they have these strong bonds that they give to their customers as well as their partners. So number two asked question is, explain what is food with integrity is all about of Chipotle. So we know that Chipotle prioritizes food with integrity. So it is the commitment of the company to sourcing high quality ingredients from its raw materials to its reliable sources of the raw materials. So high quality ingredients, it prioritizes ingredients that meet high standards of quality from its taste and nutrition of the product. Number two, we have the responsible sourcing. So it seeks out suppliers who adhere to ethical and sustainable practices. So it is important to have a reliable suppliers, not just one, but it is important as well to have a backup, reliable sources to have your raw materials produced. Then we have the transparency. It is from where the ingredients came from and how they are being produced. The next is supporting local communities to promote sustainability, education, and food access. So overall, food with integrity represents Chipotle's company values and commitment to serve and exceed customer satisfaction. Number three, and the last question we have is, what do you think is the strength of Chipotle Mexican Grill in terms of the implementation of ethics in its supply chain management? So we have Chipotle Mexican Grill in terms of implementing ethics in its supply chain management is its strong commitment to food with integrity all across all aspects of its operation. So food with integrity is their center prioritize of the company. So we have clear ethical vision. So what is this clear ethical vision? We have that Chipotle has well-defined vision they have this well-defined vision that what is their goals that should be achieved at the end of the year to satisfy guests, and around sourcing high quality and raised ingredients to build trust with their customers. Then we have supplier relationship. So we also have this reliable suppliers. So to maintain consistency by partnering with suppliers who share its values and commitment of the company. Then we have the transparency. So we all know that this is the character of the company to inform to where the ingredients came from and how they are being produced to exceed customers' expectations. And we have the continuous improvement. So it is also to build trust with customers and as well exceed customer satisfaction. And lastly, we have consumer engagement. So it stay responsive to their, for example, their complaints or their concerns about the raw materials. So we have to stay responsive to consumers' preferences and maintain the reputation of the company. So overall, Chipotle's strength is in implementing ethics in the supply chain management lies in its holistic approach to their customers and as well as their partners. They have the clear vision, transparency practices, strong supplier relationship, and commitment to continuous improvement. So that's overall, that is the chapter summary and the case analysis of our report, Ethics in Supply Chain Operation. Thank you, and mabuhay.